Hey, if you chosen and you know you chosen, I mean handpicked by the Most High, and you know, man, without the shadow of a doubt, this brand is for you. This is for the chosen. This is for the remnant. Stand up. Shop with me. Okay, keep your religion. Keep your religion. Part four. Uh, let me break this doctrine of discovery down for y'all. Okay, and this is the birth of white supremacy. The doctrine of discovery is the birth of white supremacy. Now, listen, the doctrine of discovery was used by European monarchies beginning in the mid 15th century as a means of legitimizing the colonization of lands outside of Europe. It was issued in 1493, the year after Christopher Columbus arrived on the shores of what is now known as North America. The doctrine of discovery continues to impact indigenous peoples throughout the world. Now, five things you need to know about the doctrine of discovery. Check this out. The intent of the doctrine. The doctrine of discovery provided a framework for Christian explorers in the name of their sovereign to lay claim to territories uninhabited by Christians. If the lands were vacant, then they could be defined as discovered and sovereignty claimed. All right. Second thing, within the framework of the doctrine, indigenous peoples in the Americas were considered non-human. You see that? The presiding theory of the time was that indigenous peoples, because they were non-Christians, were not human, and therefore the land was empty or terra nullius. Terra nullius means no one's land. Uh, uh, so when Christopher Columbus in 1492, it is estimated that the Americas were actually occupied by 100 million indigenous peoples, which is about 1/5 of the human race at that time, who had been living their traditional lives on the land since time immemorial. Immemorial. But because they were not Christians, the land was deemed terra nullius. You see that? The third thing, the UN's perspective on the impact of the doctrine of discovery. This is an article from May 2012. The preeminent forum on indigenous issues concluded its 11th session with the approval of a set of, mine, of 9 draft recommendations, highlighted by a text approved on the special theme, the ongoing impact of the ongoing impact of the discovery doctrine on indigenous peoples and the right redress. That 15th century Christian principle was denounced throughout the session as the shameful root of the discrimination and marginalization indigenous people face today. The permanent forum noted that while such doctrines of domination and conquest included terra nullius and the Hegelian doctrine were promoted as authority for land acquisition, they also encouraged despicable assumptions that indigenous peoples were savages, barbarians, inferior, and uncivilized, among other constructs the colonizers used to sabotage, dominate, and exploit the lands, territories, and resources of native peoples. Number 4, the doctrine of discovery is still relevant in today's legal arenas in Canada. On 26 June 2014, in a unanimous 8-0 decision that marked the first time the highest court has recognized the existence of Aboriginal title on a particular site, the Supreme Court of Canada made clear that the doctrine of terra nullius, that no one owned the land prior to European assertion of sovereignty. never applied in Canada, as confirmed by royal proclamation. The fifth thing, uh, the doctrine of discovery continues to impact indigenous peoples in Canada. So I ain't gonna read all this. It's a lot to read there, but what we can see is that these people, uh, they used religion to conquer our people. This is from another article. The doctrine of discovery was a legal and religious principle that justified European colonization of non-Christian lands, peoples, and nations. It was based on the idea that European culture, religion, and people were superior to all others. The doctrine of discovery was established by a series of papal bulls or decrees beginning in the 1100s. One of the most well-known papal bulls was Inter Quaternaria, issued by Pope Alexander VI in 1493. Listen at this. The doctrine of discovery gave European nations the right to claim land and resources and to impose Christianity on non-Christian populations. Disregarded existing inhabitants. The doctrine of discovery assumed that the lands were uninhabited or terra nullius, when in fact they were often already occupied by indigenous people. So this was the birth of white supremacy. This was the birth of it. And a lot of people ain't gonna like what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. The biggest tool used in white supremacy is the image of Jesus Christ. It's that image that we all know as Jesus Christ. The biggest tool used for white supremacy. And the truth is the truth. The thing is, the people, indigenous people of America, they already worship the Most High. And I'll get into that on another video. But also want to show you that there was an apology made. There was an apology made by Pope Francis concerning this doctrine. And my last video, I said that was back in May, a few months ago. Man, it's funny how time flies. That was last year. It was May of last year when I came across the article, but it was actually in March, on March 30th. Here it is. It says, on March 30th, 2023, Pope Francis repudiated the doctrine of discovery, a set of ideas the Spanish and Portuguese in particular used to justify seizing land they had discovered and colonizing indigenous people in the land they came to called the Americas. And he issued a public apology. Where is this? Another, let's see. It says, this is the statement. The Vatican statement acknowledged that the papal bulls that made up the doctrine of discovery did not reflect the equal rights of indigenous peoples. It also said that the bulls were manipulated by colonial powers for political purposes. and have never been considered expressions of the Catholic faith. Remember what I said? Religion and government is one and the same. Yeah, and it's created to control you. But there's one government, and that's the kingdom of Yah, and His laws is the supreme law. You understand? Now, and here's the apology. It says the Vatican also apologized for historical atrocities committed by Christians. Let me see that. Say that again. The Vatican also apologized for historical atrocities committed by Christians. Now, why is the Vatican apologizing on behalf of? I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of Christians ain't gonna like what I'm about to say. And I shared this with one of my close brothers. I said, Christianity is under Roman rule. It's under Catholic rule. Christianity is Rome's baby. Okay, now for Constantine's creed. Constantine's creed. I want y'all to listen to this. The early document of the Roman Catholic Church, established by Emperor Constantine and codified at the Council of Nicaea, is a fundamental but little known policy of the Catholic Church. It is an attempt to not just distance from, but destroy the connections of their new religion, Christianity, from its origins in the Hebraic Jewish culture. Also included are decrees from subsequent Catholic councils. The Constantine Creed, 325 AD, established by the Council of Nicaea. You need to know about this too, because this is where this religious traditions of men come from, and this is what we've been programmed to do. We've been programmed to keep the traditions of men rather than the oracles of Yah. And so you need to know this, my people. Constantine Creed. I renounce all customs, rites, legalisms, unleavened breads, and sacrifices of lambs of the Hebrews, and all the other feasts of the Hebrews, sacrifices, prayers, aspirations, purifications, sanctifications, and propitiations, and fasts, and new moons, and Sabbaths, and superstitions, and hymns, and chants, and observance, and synagogues, absolutely everything Jewish, every law, rite, and custom. And if afterwards I shall wish to deny and return to Jewish superstition, or shall be found eating with Jews, or feasting with them, or secretly coveting and condemning the Christian religion instead of openly confuting them and condemning their vain faith, then let the trembling of Cain and the leprosy of Gehazi cleave to me, as well as the legal punishments to which I acknowledge myself liable, and may I be an anathema in the world to come, and my soul be set down with Satan and the devils. This is Constantine's creed. In other words, he say, let's do away with everything. Let's oppose everything that the Most High told him to do and live by, and let's do it this way, our way. Why? Because we worship the sun. We this is a pagan deity that invaded the faith. That's what Christianity is. A pagan society that infiltrated the people of Yah. There it is. That's what it is. So, the Most High, Yahuwah, He wants to free His people. Keep your religion. Yeah.